Hey, do you even know where we're going? My GPS just cut out, and judging by the scenery around us, it ain't coming back anytime soon.
You're asking me? You know, I'm not sure why they picked such a remote location for Mo GameCon this year. Let's stop at that gas station up there and ask for some directions.
Can I help you?
Yeah, hi. We were just wondering, could you tell us how to get to Ramey Convention Center?
Not even close. This is Campbell's Woods.
Well, we got lost. We were just passing through.
A lot of people pass through. And a lot of people never come back. Don't go in those woods, kid. There's evil in them woods. It got my wife. It got my dog. I really miss that dog. Go home, kid.
You're right. Thank you. I'm gonna go.
I'm not even supposed to be here today.
What's wrong?
I hope that wasn't one of those weird cases of foreshadowing. Let's get out of here.
Alright, well, I'm officially out of ideas. We're lost. This road was a dead end, and what, it would take about another 30 minutes or so just to get back to the main road? I'm gonna call Charlie and see if we can get directions before we waste any more time.
We're sorry, your call cannot be completed as dialed.
Never mind. No service here at all.
Okay, let's think about this. There's a cabin up here. Why don't we go in and see if somebody has an old landline we can borrow?
Hey, wait. Does that sound like people here? Hello? Is anybody home? We got lost and we're just looking for some directions.
Is it okay to just waltz right in? I mean, the garage door is open, so let's see if anybody's here. I think it's safe to say there's no one here.
I don't think anyone's been here for a long time.
Look, as much as I don't like the idea, I think we'd probably better just stay here for the night. I mean, it beats running out of gas and getting stranded in the middle of nowhere.
No way. That's a terrible idea.
Look, the Friday part of the convention is already over. If we want to even stand a shot at getting to the Saturday part, we need to just stay here for the night, and we'll set out early tomorrow morning.
Fine. You're right. Let's just try to make ourselves comfortable, and we leave at the crack of dawn.
Man, it looks like this place hasn't been touched in forever.
I wonder what happened. The whole place looks like it was abandoned in a hurry.
I don't know, but we hit the jackpot. Look what I found.
Look at what else I found. I think it's like an early walkthrough or a Let's Play on cassette tape. Maybe we should take a listen.
How are you feeling? I believe I may have made a significant find in the Kandarian ruins. A CD of ancient gameplay. It is entitled Mortis Malum, Ave ad Regem, roughly translated, Evil Dead, Hail to the King. This game is cursed by demons of the digital domain. This everlasting evil may lie dormant, but beware, for they are never truly dead. It is through the booting of this game that the demons are given license to possess the living.
You know, it's weird. All of a sudden, I feel the urge to repair some cartridges. I can't explain it.
I know now that my friends have become hosts to the Kandarian demons. I fear that the only way to stop those possessed by the spirits of this game is through the act of completion.
Oh God. All right, blind playthrough it is, I guess.
What the heck was that?
I don't know. Bad batteries, faulty wiring. Either way, let's just go ahead and get started.
Hey, isn't that supposed to be a chainsaw? You want a piece of this? Yeah, I didn't.
Rated M for mature.
Come on, you freak! Help! Come on, take it like a man. Chasing me!
Alright, so what can you tell me about this game?
So this is Evil Dead, Hail to the King, a survival horror game developed by Heavy Iron Studios for the Sony PlayStation and Sega Dreamcast in the year 2000. The game would also see a release for Windows PCs later in 2001.
Heavy Iron Studios also developed the cult hit SpongeBob SquarePants: Battle for Bikini Bottom, right?
Correct. They also did several more SpongeBob games, a few Disney games, a Family Guy game, and even a Scooby-Doo game. Fun fact, they're still around, most recently helping co-develop Crash Bandicoot 4, It's About Time.
So it sounds like they have a pretty solid reputation and a notable list of releases under their belts.
As far as the Evil Dead goes, there have been multiple games made as part of the franchise, with the first being released for the Commodore 64 back in 1984. There was also a pair of Evil Dead games that came out later for the PS2 and Xbox, Fistful of Boomstick and Regeneration, both of which follow more of a hack-and-slash style gameplay instead of the more traditional gameplay style that's in Hail to the King.
This looks similar to a Resident Evil game.
You're definitely not too far off. The game features some tank controls and fixed camera positions, but it's definitely more forgiving than a Resident Evil game in my opinion. Don't let that fool you, however. The game features a solid learning curve that taps into that old-school survival horror difficulty.
Press the friggin' start button, would ya?
Oh man, I'd know that voice anywhere. They actually got Bruce Campbell for this, as it should be. The man is a legend to my family. Hey, my stuff. That's convenient. We actually had the honor of meeting Bruce Campbell just a couple of years ago on his book tour at Left Bank Books in St. Louis. We got to talk to Bruce, take a few candid photos, and get some of our merch signed. It was a great experience. Having Bruce Campbell voice Ash is absolutely quintessential. There's no way they could ever recast him. After all, Bruce Campbell is Ash Williams.
Anyway, getting into the plot of the game, it takes place 8 years after the events of Army of Darkness. Our groovy cleft of retail work, Ash Williams, finds himself fighting reoccurring nightmares of the Necronomicon and the demons of his past. In a stroke of genius, the Employee of the Month decides to return to the cabin in the woods and attempt to conquer his fears once and for all.
Yeah, because that sounds like a great idea.
It was not. Because as expected, things go awry when Ash's possessed severed hand plays Professor Nobi's incantation and once again unleashes the Kandarian evil. This allows Evil Ash to reanimate and whisk away Ash's girlfriend du jour, Jenny.
Looking at the game from a design perspective, they nailed it. Right off the bat, I'm noticing how faithful the game looks to the franchise. This cabin is spot on. And look, when you get into the area in the woods with the bridge is of course broken and impassable, just like in the film. And is that the Delta 88? Sam Raimi's beloved car. It's in every film in the Evil Dead franchise, so I love that it's made its way into this game too. With the exception of the bridge and the cabin in the woods, it looks as if the other areas are unique to this game. but they've been designed in such a way that feels true to the franchise, which is important when adding new features to such a strongly established canon.
Oh yeah, the whole game feels like a very intimate love letter to the first 2 movies of the franchise. Like, right out of the gate, one of the first mini-bosses in the game is Ash's original girlfriend Linda. Once you pick up the shovel outside the cabin, any fan of the series will recognize what happens next. Out pops the headless deadite Linda, and you're forced to dispose of her for what, like the billionth time in the franchise's history?
Wait, which Linda? Linda number 1, Linda number 2, or Linda number 3?
D. None of the above. Although, if I'm to be completely honest, it's most similar to the ghastly Linda from The Evil Dead 2. But anyway, as you mentioned, the new areas blend in seamlessly to the atmosphere of the game. There is now abandoned campgrounds, mines, and an even more expanded upon version of the movie's Evil Forest.
Now that we're out in the game's world, this feels like a good time to talk about the items that you're collecting throughout your playthrough. Obviously, some of these items include ammunition, low-quality junk foods, health kits, and gas for your chainsaw. In typical survival horror fashion, these items tend to run in limited quantities. Thankfully, you have Ash's ingenuity and college-level chemistry knowledge to carry you through the game. You can take common variety items like the white and red mushrooms and convert them into health kits and gasoline for the chainsaw respectively.
But let's not forget the most important collectible in the game, pages of the Necronomicon Ex Mortis. You'll end up running all over hell and half of Michigan to collect these babies, fighting endless skeletons, floating deadites, Boy Scouts, reanimated hellbillies, and a variety of neat bosses amidst all the madness. And once again, there just needs to be some praise for the design and style for being in lockstep with the franchise. A much more serious item you won't ever forget are the tape reels. Much like how Professor Nobi left a reel-to-reel tape deck in the cabin which triggered the events of The Evil Dead, Ash collects tape reels to save the game. Once again, this is similar to early Resident Evil, wherein you save the game by collecting ink ribbons for the typewriters in the safe room. It should be noted that these aren't completely mandatory to collect. So if you're a total masochist, you can forego saving and play in a reckless fashion that would make even Ashley Williams proud.
A smart player would probably use these in critical areas, like before or after a major boss fight.
The game is definitely designed with that in mind, and thank goodness, because I am a cautious gamer who is definitely out of his element with this game.
In the quest to collect all of the Necronomicon pages, Ash eventually finds himself at a church with an attached graveyard. Here, he meets Father Allard, who locks Ash in the graveyard. Thanks a lot, Padre. In order to progress, Ash must solve the puzzle of the 4 gravestones. Each gravestone requires a tribute be placed at each of the headstones in order to open the church doors.
This takes you inside the chapel, where you fight an undead version of Ash. Not the Evil Deadite one, but a completely separate third version of Ash that is more like a lich than anything. Ash even makes note of this during the fight in typical humorous fashion.
Upon besting your boneheaded counterpart, the floor beneath Ash opens up, and he falls through the opening, crashing into a network of tunnels. These tunnels lead to a location that more astute Evil Dead fans might recognize as the Nobi fruit cellar. Speaking of homage, does that film projector look familiar?
This area also has you reenact a very famous scene from the franchise. Ash picks up a wrench, tightens a bolt on a pipe, and boom, blood geyser. It is a wonderful hallmark of the franchise for Ash to basically get coated with blood at a moment's notice.
After that shower of sadness, the player is met with another face with which fans are well acquainted. Resembling her mother now more closely than ever, Annie Nobi from Evil Dead 2 appears as the final boss of Disc 1, wielding the Kandarian dagger that she was stabbed with as her weapon of choice.
And you heard that right, Disc 1. This is a 2-disc slaughterhouse, and Annie herself is hands down the hardest fight in the game. Firmly wedged a little over the halfway point, this boss fight is a difficulty skill check that honestly makes me feel like giving up. Persistence and a little bit of dumb luck will eventually get you over the hump, triggering the closing cutscene.
Ash leaves the cellar to find Father Allard and the still possessed Jenny. Using the Kandarian dagger and the completed Necronomicon, Allard is able to open a portal and banish the Deadite possessing Jenny. But wait, it's not actually Allard. Yep, it's Evil Ash in disguise, who temporarily disables our Ash, pulling Jenny into the portal at the same time. Our Ash chases after them, and in doing so, he's sent back to medieval times.
No, this one is much less delicious. This ancient world is similar to the one featured in The Army of Darkness. Well, that takes us to the end of the first disc. Time to change it. There's a path, let's go. I don't see it, but I also don't think we should go back.
Maybe we could loop around or something and get back to the car.
I think that's too risky. We gotta wait it out or something.
Okay.
There's a barn up there. We could take our chances.
Yeah, sure.
Hey, is that a TV in there?
Well, that's convenient.
Yeah, maybe we can use that to finish the game. But how would we power it? Alright, I guess I'll go start it.
Alright.
Groovy. Alright, how do I start this? Uh-oh. Why won't it work?
Come here!
Bingo.
Do you really think it's dead?
I don't know. Seems like it to me. Well, at least this frees us up for the rest of the night, so we can finish the game. Also, come give me some sugar. Right, well, let's get started.
Wait, where'd you get that?
Inventory space.
Finally, Disc 2. Alright, so after doing the time warp again, we find our swashbuckling protagonist falling face first into Damascus, 1,300 years in the past. This fall from grace introduces a new character, Abdul Aziz, a seemingly mad poet and prophet who has studied the Necronomicon and even translated some of its pages in the past. Aziz tells the audience of a dream he had, wherein a warrior of the sky is transported from the future into 730 AD.
Yep, and because the Necronomicon is always bad juju, Aziz is locked away in prison while Evil Ash and the rest of the Blighted City's guild of cultists continue translating so that they can use the book to release the Dark Ones on humanity. And spoiler alert,
Try to take over the world.
in order to stop another rise of the Army of Darkness, Ash is tasked with rescuing Aziz from his cell so that they can use the Necronomicon to send Evil Ash away and get good Ash back to the present times. But it isn't so easy as just finding a key. Ash battles his way through primitive deadites to find materials to make a bomb and free the incarcerated Aziz.
Aziz tells Ash that he must go to the town merchant and mention a white scimitar. Turns out, white scimitar is code word for gunpowder, which is needed to make a bomb in order to literally blow the doors off of Aziz's cell. Ash finds the seemingly normal merchant and receives some bomb-building materials. The worse for wear Delta 88 is also recovered, having just made Jackson Pollock art out of the merchant's partner.
Other materials needed include a gas tank, rope, and a fuse, which you can then take back in order to actually use your explosive skeleton key, which clears the door from Alz's cell and somehow doesn't turn our literary friend into jelly. But I'm not gonna say the Evil Dead franchise is the pinnacle of lab safety anyway.
After finding out that Al-Ziz only translated, quote, the bad part of the Necronomicon, and not, quote, the good part, it becomes Ash's job to break into the guild's temple to retrieve Al-Ziz's Necronominotes. The temple is rife with cultists and other space oddities, including an astronomy puzzle that involves moving models of the Earth, Sun, and Moon into a formation that resembles a solar eclipse. This is done in order to open the door to your first boss fight on this disc. It can be noted that this disc is much more linear and boss-focused. Rather than running around a pseudo-open world and scraping up collectibles, you're usually tasked with fighting to the end of an area, with puzzle elements interspersed in between.
Most of these puzzles aren't going to conjure up your inner Charlie Kelly, and can be solved really easily, like put square peg in the square hole, and put circle peg in the circle hole. You know, stuff that's about Ashley Williams' speed. Which actually brings out a rather hilarious gag in the game, too. Down in the aqueducts, we find the most complicated puzzle in the game that requires the usage of a scale and measuring specific gravity, which Ash uses his massive galaxy brain to solve with his boomstick instead. This feels like a callback to Indiana Jones when he decided he was too tired for a complex sword duel.
The game also combines some of these puzzle-solving elements in one of the bosses as well. In the courtyard of the local barracks, Ash is chased around by an invulnerable giant suit of armor that wants to play whack-a-mole with his head. Thankfully, if you've actually read the notes dispersed throughout the area, you learn that the one weakness of this boss is temperature shock. And you utilize the buckets of molten metal and cold water to defeat the Shovel Knight look-alike, rather than actually fighting it.
Going back to the crafting element, Ash's handyman skills from the housewares department allows him to modify his weapons as well, since this primitive world doesn't carry the latest and greatest in S-Mart ammunition. The shotgun can be modified to fire rock salt, while the other firearms shoot spikes and nails. One upgrade that kind of baffles me is the switch to a circular saw instead of Ash's iconic chainsaw arm. He picks this up from the Tin Man boss that we talked about earlier. Kinda seems like a step backwards in the power tool hierarchy with the loss of range and whatnot, but who am I to challenge El Jefe?
Deep down in the bowels of Damascus is Evil Ash and some tentacle-armed cultists who are seeking to release creatures from the Netherworld. But by the time you make it down there, the evil doppelganger is gone, having already betrayed the cultists and moved on through the portal. Following Evil Ash through the portal, you're immediately ambushed by eldritch chicken demons in an attempt to collect Ash's old possessed severed hand, which is just chilling out in a dungeon for some reason. You'll come to use this hand to help retrieve an item that's tucked away in a little tunnel, and this just feels like a missed opportunity.
Seriously, the game plays just a boring cutscene. No passage of time or anything.
This section would have been a great opportunity for a minigame or something where you can actually control the hand. But whatever, we're basically done with the game anyway. Al-Ziz finishes up his work, but is then shortly devoured by Shumagorath, forcing Ash to scramble up the pages and hop into the portal to face his Deadite clone one last time. Thankfully, you can just power through with the brute force of the chainsaw and shotgun combo. This triggers a transformation where we now fight our final boss of the game.
Oh god, it's back.
Back for round 2?
I'm glad it's dead, but how do we finish the game now? Oh, duh. I know this controller was made for Resident Evil 4, but I honestly can't think of a better controller than this to play Evil Dead.
So where were we? Oh yeah, literally the final boss. So Evil Ash transforms into this horrifying scorpion-like monster.
At least it's better than the Rock in The Mummy Returns.
That's true. Anyway, the boss arena has 4 pillars which you go around smacking to disable the boss's invincibility, allowing you an opportunity to shred into it. But realistically, it's a battle of attrition at this point. Every time you go between the pillars, the boss fires a projectile that is almost guaranteed to hit. So it's imperative that you collect mushrooms and try to keep your health kit count as high as possible. Eventually, you will take it down and recite the magic words to open the portal and send the creature away. Ash then recites the good magic words, allowing him and Jenny to return to their home in Dearborn, Michigan. However, all is not right in the world, as they now find themselves on a post-apocalyptic city street. Ash looks over to a bookstore, and they learn the Necronomicon is a bestseller. He lets out a scream, and the game fades to black.
No, this isn't the bad ending. There is no alternate ending. This conclusion is more in line with the alternate ending of the Army of Darkness, wherein Ash drinks too much of the potion and Rip Van Winkles himself too far into a future in which everything is ruined. Is it grim? Yes, but it's also hilarious. It's important to remember, for as much of a one-liner quipping badass as Ash is, he's also a goon, and he messes things up a lot.
Indeed. Well, that's about it for Evil Dead Hail to the King. Overall, I gotta say, I hate tank control survival horror games, but as a fan of this franchise, this was well worth playing. It has charm, humor, and some other elements well intact. The game wasn't well received by critics and the like, but I think that's selling it short. In my opinion, it's definitely a fun game.
Hey, I think the sun's finally coming up.
If we leave now, we might be able to make the second day of Mo GameCon. Shall we off?
Let's.
What's up, man?
Hey, Adam, how's it going?
Good, man.
There's your pass. Enjoy the con.
Thank you. It's a sweet shirt. Is that a Star Wars reference?
It is.
Okay, good.
Yeah. May the force be with you.
Peace.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. How about you?
Here are your passes.
Thank you.
Enjoy the con.
Thank you.
What happened to you guys?
You don't want to know.